Hey, I'm Jusko from ProudMoney.com, and in this video we are going to do some defining of FICO credit scoring terms for beginners to credit. In particular, we're going to talk about what it means to be scorable, what a thin file is and what it isn't, and what new to credit is as defined by FICO. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not already. And if you have already, I thank you for doing so. So in the first few years, when you are getting credit for the first time and building credit, FICO in their credit scoring models sort of treats you with a little bit of distrust. Now, they try to sort of help you along, I guess, if you do the right things, if you make your payments on time and all that kind of stuff. They'll kind of give you a okay credit score that shows you haven't done anything wrong. But before your credit score can get really good, you're going to have a little bit of a track record. And so we're going to talk about some very specific terms as FICO defines them and sort of how those play into your credit score. Now, when you are first establishing credit, you don't start from zero and have to work your way up into the 600s and 700s and 800s. Instead, you sort of start from neutral, the void, the universe before the Big Bang. You essentially are nothing until, at least as far as FICO is concerned, you are nothing until FICO says that you are scorable. So they're not starting you at zero and then, giving you 20 points or whatever as you move up. Instead, what they're doing is they are waiting until you have at least one credit card or auto loan or mortgage or student loan or other type of loan for at least 6 months. After 6 months, assuming that whatever you have, credit card, auto loan, whatever, has reported to one of the credit bureaus, that is when you would become scorable for the first time. So not only do you have to have an account for 6 months, you also have to have an account been reported to the credit bureaus in the last 6 months. So it's possible that you could become scorable, and then if you stop using credit over a period of time, you would become unscorable again, because there's also that last 6 months aspect to it. So you have to have had something reported on your credit report in the last 6 months. So I was poking around the FICO website, and I saw in some of these white papers and resources they have in which they try to convince lenders to use their scores and use the most recent versions of their scores. There was a chart that had a little some footnotes underneath it, and in those footnotes they talked about what they define as a person being a thin file and also what they define as a person being new to credit. Now, when I use the term new to credit, I oftentimes am just talking about someone who's completely new to credit, never used credit before, getting their first credit card, that sort of thing. But that is not how FICO actually defines it when they think of a person being new to credit. So first off, thin file is somebody that has 3 or fewer trade lines on their credit report. So trade lines, again, meaning credit cards or auto loans, mortgages, personal loans, student loans, any of those things. So 3 or fewer, you are considered a thin file. After 3, you no longer are a thin file. From what I understand, they don't actually talk about anyone being a thick file. You're only a thin file if you are 3 or fewer. Now, on the new to credit end, FICO actually considers you new to credit if you have only had credit or a loan or whatever your oldest thing is that you have. If it is less than 3 years that you have had a credit report with something reporting on it, then you are still considered new to credit. So to me, I was a little surprised by that. I thought that new to credit would mean a shorter period of time. So if you think about that, you have to have 3 years before they consider you to no longer be new to credit. So you could be new to credit, but no longer be a thin file. And you also could be a thin file, but no longer be new to credit. So, you could have more than 3 things on your credit report, more than 3 credit cards or auto loans or whatever, but still be under 3 years since you got the first one, or vice versa. You could be beyond 3 years, but have fewer than 3 trade lines. So thin file and new to credit are not necessarily synonymous. Now, that information is not necessarily easy to act upon. I don't think if you have a thin file, you should necessarily run out and get yourself another credit card or an auto loan or something to try and get yourself over the hump. And there's obviously nothing you can do about how old your oldest credit line is. So really, I think it's information that is good to know for people that are newer to credit. So maybe you won't be as frustrated if you are declined for things in those first 3 years of, after you've established credit for the first time, or if you get credit lines that you think are measly compared to, what you deserve because you've been making all your payments on time and kept your credit utilization low and all that kind of stuff. So you can get a little frustrated in the early going if you're doing everything right and you're still not feeling like you're getting the rewards for it. Really, in the FICO credit scoring models, those first 3 years, they're still kind of treating you like you got the training wheels on before they're going to, sort of give you that higher score. Now, you could still get up over 700. Some people get up to, 740 and beyond even in those first couple years. But to really get up there into that excellent credit zone, you're going to have a little more time under your belt. And then one last statistic that I think is interesting and is somewhat related to what we're talking about here. FICO had a chart in one of these white papers. It didn't have a specific date on it, but it was from 2021. And that chart said that 190 million American adults have a credit score right now. So they have enough on their credit report to be scorable, but 28 million people have something on their credit report, but not enough to get a FICO credit score. 25 million people, nothing on their credit reports at all. So obviously they don't have a credit score either. So that's 53 million people that don't have enough or anything on their credit files as of now to have any sort of ability to even get a credit score. And this was sort of put out there in the context of looking for alternative data to try to bring in to the credit reports in order to make more people scorable and to get people to a place where they could get credit for the first time. We've talked a lot about that over the last couple of years, this idea of trying to use alternative data like rental payments and utility payments and things of that nature to try and boost people's credit score, or at least make them scorable so that they could actually access credit. So they're continually trying to do this and, trying to move people from no file to some file, from thin file to thick file, and make sure that everybody who wants to have credit can access it. I know some people are going to say, well, you shouldn't have credit in the first place, but that's not what we're talking about here. All right, that's it. Questions, comments, put them in that comment section below. Otherwise, I thank you for watching. And as always, please go to proudmoney.com where we do credit card reviews. We talk personal finance, we talk deals, and all sorts of other fun stuff too. Thanks for watching. Bye.